Fantastic. Well, let's get started. Welcome to Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of Remax Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and it is with a sort of a deep heart that I don't get to introduce my amazing co-host, Dave Falkware, from Bridgewater, New Jersey's Remax Preferred Professionals and Viral Realty team. Dave has sat next to me for almost every single episode that we've done. Now, this is episode 102 of Mobile Agent TV, and he is building his team right now and making it larger. And Vanessa and Dave are back home in New Jersey, couldn't come to R4, so I reached out to the default co-host of the show. This is your like 9th appearance on the show, probably something like that. This is Valerie Garcia. She's a dear friend of the show and in real estate and personal life, so she's the only approved co-host of Mobile Agent TV. So Valerie, thank you very much for sitting down and doing this. Now, I've read Valerie's bio out on the show so many times that if they don't know you, we're not going to waste time. We're going to move along. So it's a tradition on Mobile Agent TV it says something about being slightly sarcastic. You can rate her Twitter bio. So it's a tradition that we read out our guest's 160 Twitter bio. So we're going to go down. We're going to first introduce you to Ros Waters, and you can get her on Twitter at Ros_Waters, ROS. And her 160 Twitter bio reads, 2006 Most Outstanding New Talent in Queensland and Australia, 2010 to 2014 Remax Platinum Club, 2014 was inducted into the Remax International Hall of Fame and Top 100. Welcome to the show, Ros. Next, I will go over to Daniel Bergelson. You can get Daniel on Twitter at RealEstateBert. And his 160 Twitter bio reads, real estate nerd. Every day I work for people that motivates me. My family is my heart. Bring it. Hashtag Remax family. Hashtag work hard, play hard. Hashtag choose happiness. Welcome to the show, Daniel. Thank you. And returning champion, Nathan Dart. This is your 3rd or 4th appearance on the show. So, of all time, best looking guest we've ever had. I mean, you know, not only is he good looking, he's charming and nice, which makes it miserable.
But not available, ladies.
You can get him on Twitter at Dart Homes Team. 160 Twitter bio reads, top selling residential and commercial real estate team in MDDCVA. Bunch of cool cats, not your grandma's real estate company. Nathan Dart, thank you very much. Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you. So we've never really done this. When we've done live shows, we bring on a guest, we move on to the next one, we bring on a guest, we move on to the next one. But I kind of feel like we never really get into sort of dig down deep. So we're just going to start throwing stuff into the middle. So let's, one of my very favorite questions that I've been asking on Periscope lately is recent aha moments. You know, the one thing that I'm surprised about this real estate industry, I'm a 23-year veteran, I have them all the time, and they don't stop, and they just keep coming where you're like, oh, that's going to take me to the next level, that's going to help me out. So, Nathan, most recent aha moment in real estate?
Just how teams are growing now, right? It's just, it's an endless opportunity. I mean, Dave said on the stage yesterday at the opening general session that we're made up of entrepreneurs, and we are. And as our entrepreneur spirit continues to grow, it's based on growth. And you see teams now, I'm talking to teams that are building teams within teams. So it's not just the 1, 2, 3 or the 5 to 6 teams or the 12 teams. Now you got 30 and 50 and 60 people on a team. So that limitless growth is inspiring. I mean, so for me, complacency is always my biggest fear, my biggest danger is complacency. But when you know you have something to grow towards and you're seeing these teams grow as they are, that's inspiring. That's a huge aha for me. So it's the idea that we can continue to grow and be entrepreneur in this business, I think is awesome.
That is cool.
Ros, for you, most recent aha moment?
Probably the most recent that was a big learning experience was it's about limits. It's about your staff having limits, and I have a staff member who's also my sister. She's been with me as my PA since I became a conjunctional agent, and I guess she started wearing so many hats. I got to the point where I just knew I think she'd reached her limit. I needed to start delegating, bringing extra staff on to take some of those jobs away from her, and I think you can risk losing really good people if you don't take notice of people's limits. You need to restructure. We're obviously growing very quickly, and I think that was a really big lesson for me and a big aha moment. I don't want to lose good people because of thinking that they can just keep wearing more and more hats. So definitely.
Good one.
Dave, I just got a text message from Dave, and he wants to give a shout out to Super Mike, who's here watching. So I think that's a New Jersey thing. I don't know why they all stick together. Thanks, Dave. I miss you, man. Aha moments, maybe from a training perspective or technology perspective from your role within Remax. Do you any recent aha moments?
Well, if we're going to go most recent, it was definitely Mel Robbins this morning in the morning session. She said, you know, people need to be reminded and not always told. Sometimes you're just consistently reminding them of stuff they already know. And I think that was a huge aha moment for me. Was just you're right. It's not always about having to learn something new. Sometimes it's about being reminded about what you already know and what you're not doing. And for me, that's a big one. A lot of people have been in my training know they're always like, what's new? What should I do that's new? And I'm like, what are you doing that's old? Nothing. Okay, so maybe start there. So I think that was really good that she brought that up. Is a lot of times our role is just to keep reminding people of the stuff they already know that they need to do instead of consistently telling them to do new things. So I thought that really hit home.
For you, Daniel.
I think it's getting back to the basics a little bit. As I do a lot of training with Valerie and with our agents, and I think people need to be reminded that they can be unique without having every special technology tool, without having just a ridiculous amount of things they need to learn. Recently in a training, I'll give you the best example I can come up with. I told an agent, you know, they don't like to have people in their car with them when they drive for lots of different reasons, and we'll get into them. And I said, well, why don't you go out and buy some old school, like 1980s walkie-talkies and throw one in the car behind you so that you can kind of, as you're driving them through town, you know, you could kind of give them that play-by-play without them having to hear you or be on the phone or whatever. And she says it's going over just amazingly well. It's giving her that separation or that difference. And it's just something very, very old but fun. So I think getting unique, making every little thing unique is definitely my aha.
One of the things we've talked about quite a bit that Dave has said, now I'm new to Remax. I've been here for 4.5, 5 years. I was 18 years somewhere else. And when I got here, I was overwhelmed by how much value is provided by Remax in the back end. One of the things that drew our team to Remax is that we were burning a lot of calories trying to stay at the front of where the industry was going. And then when we were approached by a Remax and sort of shown behind the scenes of Remax University and some of the tools, I went, oh, great, here's a company that's going to burn those calories for me so I can be belly to belly with my consumer. And Dave says quite often on the show that if agents were to leverage everything that's available by Remax, they would be overwhelmed. But at the same time, I think sometimes we're out looking for the new things and we're not really grabbing back at what's already available to us. And we quickly chatted before we got on the show, Daniel, about that. Like, what do we need to do to help agents grab that's right there, already vetted for them, already ready for them to utilize to improve their businesses?
I mean, I think first and foremost, therapy comes to mind. You know, because there's so much going on. There's so much. It seems like people just need to be reminded to take one thing at a time, and maybe put a time frame on it, so that you're going to say, I'm going to learn this portion of that Remax value, and I'm going to get my value back out of it, and then maybe the next quarter it's something else. Maybe the next quarter it's something else. But I mean, I remind people too, a good CRM using folders and a pen is just as cool as using something great that Remax makes for us. It's really about just grabbing onto the value that is right in front of us and getting the most out of it. Squeeze as much as you can.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Like, we really want you guys to jump in. Anything about that where you think, maybe from your perspective, that's right there, and we need to know that stuff's there and really grab, because the back end of what's available to us is world class.
Yeah, I think you can get very overwhelmed with you know, the amount that's available. One of the biggest things to learn when you join Remax, I think, is don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
There is just so much available. And I think when we're training our staff as well and our agents, we need to make sure we don't overwhelm them with everything that is available, because it's overwhelming enough starting a new career, let alone just being able to point at the 1,000 things that are available to us. And I agree. I just think, you know, one by one, step by step, showing people different things, getting them to be, you know, experts in that one thing, rather than trying to pass so many things on to them. You know, I've just had a new agent start, and, you know, you could point university, you could point at momentum. There's so many different things that you could just really overwhelm them. it's exciting for them. I think, that they're coming from perhaps a brand that just doesn't have those things available to them, and making them aware there is a lot, but we're going to take this step by step, and I'll hold your hand through it and make sure that that you can get really good at one thing before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's really good advice.
And it's the people too. I think the one thing that we don't consider is we look at all the tools, and one of the things that's the greatest about this brand is the people. Just coming to an event like this and realizing there are so many, and I've worked for a lot of brands, but there are so many people in this brand that will just willingly give you all of their knowledge and their help, and just say, I won't just show you, like, I'll give you stuff. I've put money into that. I mean, and there's so many great Facebook groups, and there's so much great networking, and it's not just about the tools. One of the things I think is the best is that you can come to an event like this and you have 6,000 resources to build your business with. And I think that's the number one thing when you bring somebody on or they join the brand, to just immerse yourself in the amazing people that are.
Okay, well let's put the next thing in the middle based on what you said. You hear there this morning, why are you here? Referral, build networks. Let's put the topic of referrals in the middle of the table. And look at ways in 2016. What I was shocked at is how little business cards I actually give out at an event like this, but how many more real connections I leave without a business card. I think the business card's value has diminished quite a bit, but the referrals are actually stopping and talking to people. So what advice, Nathan, someone who's grown his profile out there in Maryland, what advice for agents that, like those agents spoke this morning, 6 months in, that want to build those networks? That's where it happens here. Yeah. So where do people go to build that part of their business?
Yeah, we heard it here today. I mean, Milt was talking about this morning about that 5 seconds, making the commitment to actually go up and introducing yourself. Capitalize on this network. This is a phenomenal network that we have here within RE/MAX. It's the reason I come to these events. Yes, it's for the education and the training, obviously very important, but the other half of that is what you do at night, or what you do when you're going out to lunch and you're meeting new people and seeing what is it they do. I'm still inspired by the people in this network as I continue to grow my team as well, that I was having conversations even last night saying, wow, that was my aha moment, saying, these people are really growing rapidly and I want to figure out what it is that they're doing. We're a very open group. We're happy to share. You just have to reach out sometimes. And so I encourage you to do that. Capitalize on that of the network.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was mugging to Dave at home in New Jersey. He's wondering where your approved co-host pin is that we were supposed to get you. I don't know. I don't know.
And I think to add on Nathan's, I mean, just coming to a RE/MAX event is one thing. Traveling in general. I sat down. I was trying to write a blog, and I was talking about the fact that we can all get down to a level with either babies, dogs, or travel. And I know everybody knows what I'm talking about when they travel somewhere, and Bruce Johnson's sitting right here in the front row. I mean, if I wouldn't have gone to an event at some point and met him, I wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't have learned what I've learned here. Yeah. Same thing with everybody that we meet at these events. The value is just unparalleled.
But do you think it gets back down to finding a reason to have a connection with someone greater than a business card? I think when I see that business cards being handed out, you're best to hand out no business cards, have 10 meaningful conversations, because I think in 2016 more than ever, if I don't have a real connection with you or some know, like, and trust, there's not going to be a referral going out because I'll find someone that I do have a connection with. And I think that is that traditional farming, mass, go wide, go deep. And whether it's referrals in the real estate industry or lead generation, this mass of no deep doesn't seem to be, it's
about hugs.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, getting the hugs from the people that we see every year when we come back to these things, instead of like, oh, did I know that person? Man, I think I have their card. I don't know. Yeah. Instead, it's, yes, there's that person. Give them a hug, and you see them again once a year even.
I just think, I would have to say I'm probably one of the best networkers and most well-known in Australia, because I do make that point of going, if I go to an event, I separate from the people I'm familiar with to go and meet the people that I haven't met yet. And if I can encourage anybody that's new to RE/MAX or new to the industry to do anything, if you go to a function or a RE/MAX sales rally or anything, is to just don't stick with your office. Even especially here, don't sit with the people that you already know. Go out and meet as many people as you can. Be memorable. You don't have to just quickly pass your card out to everyone and say, join me on Twitter or Facebook, or just make sure you do have those conversations. You'll get to know people when you learn their story, and you'll learn so much from what they have to offer. I find a lot of the things I implement have they have not come from places where I've sat in a training session listening to someone on stage. They've come from, you know, the people that you meet, and everyone does things differently, and the best way to find out what's working for them and could perhaps work for you is definitely speaking with them. I have made the most incredible friendships in Remax, and I have been with the company now for 6 years. I think I never dreamed I would have had so many friends on Facebook, but I make a point of if I see people, we have a Women in Real Estate Facebook group, and I like to become friends with people on Facebook. There's a lady in the crowd actually that I was friends with for a really long time on Facebook, and we had our Platinum Plus High Achievers Retreat in Fiji this year, and it was the first time that I'd met Roxanne in person, and I just felt like I'd met this pen pal that I'd had for so many years, and they're the types of relationships that you can not only learn from, but obviously having people who understand your life. As a mum, it's difficult. You know, you can bounce things back off one another, and it's about the connection rather than just somebody knowing your name and phone number.
But it's interesting because I think everyone said it here too as well, which I think didn't exist prior to recent times in our industry. You see, you know, everyone does it a little bit different. I didn't realize that was an opportunity. To me, back when I got licensed in the early 90s, it was door knocking, cold calling, open houses. There was no ability to be different, to have a personal value proposition other than we had the data and you didn't. And so, you know, people ask me, if you were to go back and start all over again, how would you do it differently? And I would say I would dominate on YouTube by week 1, but YouTube didn't exist. And so I think the amazing part is now we have these opportunities to find what we're good at and deliver that too. So if you could go back and start again and know what you know now, but in a 2016 world, what would you go back to? How would the first 6 months, first year be different than it was? Nathan, I'll start with you because you're
Thinking about it, right?
no, because you, no. One of the reasons about you is you've been in real estate since you were 6 months old, right? Like you've been in this. But your parents were, your whole family was, and you know whether you're really young still, but you still knows those. You know, the catalog days and the tear sheet days, and the value proposition was we had the data.
Yeah. You know, if I was looking back in 2016, this could have been the same thing you could have done before, but I really would have tried to identify who was doing where I wanted to go. You know, what were the top producers doing, and who do I have to become and be like them and really take my business to the next levels? You know, find ways that people are building teams, attracting people to help leverage themselves so they can continue to grow. I would have done that, but that could have been done in the early 90s as well. I was limited. I mean, I looked up to my father, which was awesome. That was a limitation, but it was something that was an opportunity for me to look up to him. But there's other ways of doing it. Until I really opened up my network, I didn't see that. So I didn't see who I really truly wanted to become. And so I would have reached out in the network, and I would have taken advantage of that more.
Yeah.
I think I would have decided who I wanted to be sooner. I mean, I think it was like, you know, when you're first trying to find your way through a sales environment, a business environment, all these things, everything's pretty scary for a lot of people. Everything's very, very new, and we already talked about it once, the overwhelming factor of everything else going on. I think I would have tried to slow down and done exactly what you were talking, like make a better relationship with each person, so that I would have created more wealth, more, contacts for later down the road, because I wouldn't have just, I'm not saying I was transactional when I was doing it, but after the fact, I could have done a better job those first 5 or 6 years when I was making those relationships. I could have made them better and maybe had a few less, and I think we'd be much richer now.
Yeah.
I think piggybacking off of that, I think if I could go back earlier in my career and do something differently based on what I know now, I would take away the fear of reaching out to the people that seemed like way above me. Because I think the one thing that I've learned is that everybody's just people. And there's, sometimes there's those people and you're like, oh my gosh, they're like rock stars and they're doing all these great things, and I could never talk to that person, or I could never just call them up. And it's like recruiting, right? Brokers don't call the rock stars because they're like, oh, I'm sure everyone's calling them. You don't ask the hot girl out to the prom. Well, nobody's asking the hot girl because they're all afraid. So, ask the hot girl out to prom, right? Just
awesome.
Call up the person you're...
That's a tweetable.
I'm just,
Nelson, ask the hot girl out.
And also the
#AskHotGirl.
geeky girl who only does art. But like, don't be afraid to reach out to the people that are doing great things and say, hey, I think you're doing a great thing. I would love to get to know you, because everybody's just people. And I don't think anybody's untouchable or above us, or I think we're all just trying to do great things, and there's stuff they could learn from you. So if I could go back, I would learn that lesson earlier and reach out quicker and easier to the people that are, that are amazing.
If I had my time over again, the first thing I would do differently is start with Remax. I really, honestly.
Problem I say, Matt.
That's clap-worthy, people.
I worked for another brand, and I spent many years. I just don't believe the brand I worked for, and a lot of brands, I just don't think they're more elite, experienced agents are approachable. I just think within Remax we have a structure that allows us to, people have more stability, and they're more assured of where they are, that they don't mind sharing. They honestly, it doesn't matter who are the best sellers. I could call anybody in Australia and I know they would be happy to share. I could ask them. They send things freely. In the broker training we had yesterday, people were just saying, if you want a copy of it, just email me. You don't get that with other brands. I just think the way that we're set up allows people to be.
We don't need to be afraid of people knowing our secret.
Well, you know what, and it really comes down to your Twitter bio. Your Twitter bio, and I've heard it not from you, from many people, is #Remax Family. And I really think that really comes down to it. A family has no problem sharing. You're all in it together. You all want to see you do well. So I want to talk about opportunity of thinking long term. And it's, who's our speaker this morning? Richard?
Patrick?
Patrick talked a lot about it, but just being willing to give, and you see the amazing return. And I'll tell you a quick little story, and this is not a humble brag. It's just I look for these opportunities. I sell a house, and we also happen to find the buyer, something we don't want to do or don't look to do, but it happened to happen. So the day that the house completed, the tree of the neighbor's property fell through the roof of the shed, and took the roof of the shed off. And so I'm sitting there with a buyer saying, is this my responsibility? The seller's going, is this my responsibility? They're both willing to fix it. And the buyer was doing a house renovation. As many times we sell a house, the first guy that shows up is a guy with a jackhammer to start changing things. And so I asked the construction guy to come outside. I said, how much is it going to take to put a new roof on the shed? He says, 30 hours and probably about 10 hours and $300 worth of material. I said, put on a new roof of the shed. That opportunity, I'm sucked that it happened, but within the next month and a half, 2 referrals from both of those clients, 4 deals. And I think comes from a transactional mindset, but that's an $800 check I have to write, and what's the ROI on this particular deal, opposed to here's some information and advocates for the rest of your life. And I think that is, I don't know when the switch goes off for agents, where they go from transactional, you were there, I was there at 19, to relationship and long-term, 15 years building a business.
Yeah.
What advice for a new agent 6 months in that just needs a paycheck to pay the bills, to say, no, you write that check for $700 because the ROI is ridiculous?
Stop looking for leads and start looking for relationships. It's that simple, It's that simple.
Yeah.
And it always has been.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goal's got to be to exceed your client's expectations. Their expectations are that we're going to sell them a house, but it's what we do after the fact that we sell them the house is what separates us from everybody else, right?
Okay, but Nathan, are you giddy when you see a problem that you know that you're going to step up and fix? And not that you go out to create problems, but when they come, it makes me ecstatic, because I will then show my resolve and I will show the difference, because most people have had an experience with another agent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, we all have the stories. Like Mill talked about it today. She talked about her agent that, what was she doing? She did something to, she was putting roses in the beds, or putting flowers in a flower bed. We've all have those stories, and those we've created the advocates, right? I've been cleaning houses before before settlement. I've taken trees down before the settlement occurred. I had to put a storm door on a house not too long ago. It's what we do. We're there to exceed our clients' expectations. If we're not doing that, we don't deserve to be referred out to anybody. So we all have to strive to do that.
Yeah.
That's, I think, it makes it easy.
It's not pointing the finger at somebody else
Yeah.
when it's got to be you,
And
or when it's nobody.
Especially when you fix something that's not your fault. Especially when you fix something that's not your fault. I think that's a huge opportunity.
Well, it just comes down to, it's not about you. It's about your customer.
Yep.
It's not any different in real estate than it is at the supermarket checkout line, where you want them to be more about you than about them, right? And ultimately, it's about loving your customer.
It's also, I think, anybody who's new to the industry, really trying to show them how you can look back at where you started and what deals you're doing today that stem from someone you did that for
Tracking.
10 years ago. And if you can actually say to them, part of having a repeat and referral business is the fact that you didn't sell that person a house 10 years ago, you actually took the time to get them a new roof on the shed because a tree fell through. And I think trying to get that through to someone who's new and keen and they just want the deal and they want their commission from this one sale and, they're rushing through and the last thing they want to do is write a check for something that wasn't their fault but why should I? And I think it's really trying to get that message through to people who are new to the industry to let them know that from that one thing that you will do, you will get 1,000 deals. You'll make $1 million in commission, and that's the point that you need to try and see when you are new. It's difficult because it's the feeling of I don't want to give up that $800, but yeah, it's so important to know where that's going to actually lead to in the future.
All right, rebirth of geographical farming, and I don't know if there's a rebirth, but there's unique new opportunities to do something very traditional in a very new way, and mix that Flintstones Jetsons experience. So let's put the value of geographical farming on the table.
Right on. I think geographic farming comes down, again, instead of looking for addresses and names and prices and everything else, it's, are you really a community member for that geographic farm? Are you really a person there, or are you a sales pariah? I mean, what are you? And I think people find out really, really quick what you are, because you're either fake and you're blasting out a bunch of advertising, and when you show up, you're not what your advertising says, or you're the real deal when you show up. I mean, and geographic farming, having all the tech tools in the world from I won't say the vendor that's in here, but, doing hardcore, technologically advanced to like what we talked about right before the show. Hey, how about just going and shaking a few hands and actually legitimately want to learn something about that neighborhood while you're there?
So then on that note, how are you seeing as a broker that's got agents? What are you seeing that is an effect? I mean, that's the purpose of farming, but how are actually people rolling out, building it to be that community guy?
I know, recently an agent said, I can't door knock. I can't do it. My fear is too great, and I think that's something a lot of people share. But I said, okay, but you know it's going to work if you did it, right? And they start nodding their head and they agree. And I said, then you just need to look for a different angle on how to get that person to know that you were on their front doorstep. So we started using some bomb stuff and a link, saying, hey, Mr. So-and-so, this is a specially recorded message just for you. She wasn't afraid to record. She did video. She wasn't afraid to do a video off-site somewhere else and then put a custom note on the door. So it was tweaking how she was doing it to make it more effective for her. Whereas somebody else could have just turned around and done it the old-fashioned way, knocked on the door, and they get what they came for, I guess, in the relationship. She couldn't do it, but found a way.
Now, Nathan, sorry, Valerie.
It's okay.
Nathan, on a bigger team, perhaps the machine isn't 800 homes because it's such a big machine. You can go much more of a larger general area. What do you see out there if an agent's starting out or a smaller team where you say, here's an effective way that we do on scale that can be pared down to 800 homes?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've done everything from 30,000 homes that I was mailing to on a regular basis all the way down to 10,000, right?
Wow.
But as a new agent, it's very difficult to say, you should go out and start mailing 30,000 homes. It's not real, right? But what you need to do is you start in your farming area and you figure out where the areas that you live, right? So I've got a team, I've got 7 agents on my team. All of them are reaching out to the areas and neighborhoods that they live in now currently. What we're doing is we're looking at 500 homes. We're starting small and building. But what every mailer has to be followed up with, because it's then 7 times more effective, is door knocking. Door knocking can be tough, and most people are scared to death of door knocking, and I get it. But I tell you, once you get to the 5th or 7th time that you've done it, it gets easy, it makes it fun. I know today, I got pictures of my team, they're out door knocking here today. I mean, you got to make an experience out of it. The team goes out there together. We finish it up with beer and pizza. It made it for a fun event, right? So people look forward to it, they make it fun, but it's also 7 times more productive once you knock on that door. So just the direct mail itself is not enough. You have to follow it up with a face-to-face.
Yeah, we've actually been discussing this in some training that I've been doing in Brisbane, Australia. And I think one of the things that agents are losing touch with is, a lot of agents are saying, are you ready to list your house? Are you ready to sell? Are you ready to sell? I think you need to, just going back to what Dan said, I think we need to start looking at how to connect to the people as a community service. Yeah. Be there, the go-to person. We've talked about, we've just had some swimming pool laws change in Queensland. And one of the things that we've spoken about is actually knocking on doors and having something to tell them about a community thing rather than, are you ready to list your house? So, knocking on the door saying, are you aware that the pool laws are changing on the 1st of October? Am I able to email a link to you so you can look up the government website? And then you obviously get their email address. And then I had a relationship with, we've got a really good relationship with one of our pool guys who was doing the certificate that was required for these people that they needed by the 1st of October to say that their fencing was compliant. So then I say, is it okay if I get Steve to ring you? They then pass their phone number on to you. You build your database that way where you're actually offering them information rather than do you want to knock on the door, do you want to list your house? And I think a lot of agents just do that, and that's where the fear can leave. If they've got something to go to the person and knock on the door about information that I can provide to you, are you aware that the council dog laws have changed? Are you aware and even things like making use of natural disasters. We have a lot of bad storms. We talked before about the tree falling on the shed. So door knock your area after a storm and say, hi, we're just checking on our community. This is the area that we care about. How did you get through the storm? Did you have any issues? Offer them phone numbers for service providers who can help, fix the retaining wall that might have fallen or the tree that's fallen on the fence. And actually, let the agents know that if they are out talking to the community and saying, we're here for you rather than we just want to sell your house,
Be a community
they will
problem
call you.
solver.
You will be their go-to person and it will be, do you know anybody that knows how to fix retaining walls? Oh, Dan will know, ring him.
Yeah.
And you'll be the person that people refer you to because you've got all the information. So I think that's a really good thing.
I do, and Tony Joe speaks on it so beautifully, talking about the role of the realtor should be to be that steward of the community, just to be that pillar in our community.
The mayor.
We should know more about our community and care more about our community long term, because that's where their business is. Okay, so one more thing before we bring Brad Inman on. Question for you. It's overwhelming to be in the opening general session and to be one agent when you hear 98 countries and 100,000 agents and you see people producing. How do you juggle the role of feeling small with this big brand around you, or how do you leverage that big brand and this big network to build you up as an individual? How do you find your place and make that a positive force, something that's like, oh, this is bigger than me?
I think part of it's understanding what branding and marketing means. When for a very brief period of time, I looked outside of our brand because I wanted to be special. I wanted my brand or my thing to matter more. And then as I got educated more and more, it's like, why on God's green earth would I do that when I'm already with this giant thing? So you do feel really small, but then if you understand that all these people that are out here are actually helping feed my family too, because their signs in the yard actually help me sell properties all the way around the world and certainly across the country. It's amazing. And I think it takes a little while to truly understand that, but then also believe in it, that it is going to work, to say, I'm not giving up me individually. If I really subscribe and wrap my arms around this RE/MAX thing, I'm not giving anything up. I'm just going out and getting more. Yeah. And that's the way I feel about it. But
No, embracing the brand is huge. For me personally, I've grown up in the brand. I've been coming to RE/MAX conferences since I was 13 years old. This is all that I know. My wife says, are you going to the conference again? I'm like, what else would I do in March? This is just what I do. So as far as how big it is, yeah, it's big, but you embrace that. And for me, when you hear the opening general session, you hear the numbers, that's not, I don't look at it as an individual thing. I look at it as a group. It truly is a family here, and I look forward to seeing every time I come back here. I've seen people that I haven't seen since I was 13 years old, and it's really great to see them. It's great seeing you guys. And so you're not as small as you think. We're part of something bigger, and I think that's just what RE/MAX has always offered to myself and my family, and I'm grateful for that.
And I think that it stops a lot of people coming to the convention as well. They think, oh, I couldn't come to the convention, I'm just a small agent. I think understanding that it is the RE/MAX family, and the relationships that you build are going to help your individual business. You can be a part of, you start a business. The challenge when you start a business is building a brand that becomes familiar, you know, you already get that when you join Remax. You know, you have all this hard work that's done before you even start, and then you can, you know, use that to your advantage to build your own brand as me as a person. But, you know, why would I want to be anything other than Ros from Remax, you know? So to already have the brand there, people just put, you know, 2 and 2 together, like you said. They see someone else's sign, they think of you, and that's what it's all about, is knowing.
That I've had that argument with agents before. They're like, yeah, but Remax.com isn't JoeAgent.com, you know, or this, that, or the other thing. Or, I look at this company over here. They got this, look at that cool sign with the purple swoosh on it or whatever. And I'm like, they don't know what that is. And and unfortunately, even if you sell 1,000 homes a year, only people right here are going to know who you are. You know, so adding the Remax is huge for outside the area.
And it comes back to what you said before, it's the familiarity. So, you know, if you understand branding and marketing, it's repetition, it's in your face, everyone knows the balloon. And if you connect with your community, like we discussed before, and people get to know you, they will know that you are Remax. And as soon as they see Remax, they will associate.
They could see another
with the
name.
person that you
It's
know.
not yours, and still their brain is
still
going
think
to
of you.
recall you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
I think it's also about building a tribe. I mean, I think that I go to a lot of conferences, and Remax is one of my favorites because I know everybody and it's great to see everybody. But when I first started coming, I didn't know anybody, and I was just one person. But you know, you collect people and you say, oh, you don't have anybody to go to dinner with, or you don't have anybody to sit with. Great, and then they become your posse, right? And then you start to make that bigger and have more people in there. And I think it's just a matter of getting out of that fear of, what if that person doesn't like me, or what are they going to think about me, or I've only sold, you know, like they interviewed the guy out of the audience this morning, and he was like, well, I've only sold 12 homes. I've only been in the business a year. You've sold 12 homes.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. Like, own it and be proud of what you're doing, because we're all doing great work, and just, you know, reach out to somebody around you.
And that's the thing, definitely moving where I was, coming to Remax. I mean, one of the things is, and especially as being, you know, 102 episodes of the show, I have yet to reach out to someone who didn't say, I'm willing to come on, give an hour of my time, tell you exactly what I want to do. Some people come on 5 times. And tell you exactly what I do and share. And it's one of those ones that even though I know it's going to happen, it still shocks me every single time. And so if there's one thing, you see someone doing something, you want to know how to do it, pick up the phone, have a cup of coffee, share. And I think that's a takeaway.
Yep.
So on that note, thank you guys all for sharing. I really appreciate it. That is awesome. We're going to bring on Brad right now, but thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Ros. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Daniel. You guys are awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, you don't. Not in front of that speaker, you don't.
We're going to swap out a mic and bring on Brad right now, and then Geoff Lewis, who's the president of Remax LLC, that you heard speak yesterday, opening general session, and this morning. He's in a meeting right now, and then he's going to make his way over, and we'll pick his brain for a couple of minutes, and then we got to let Valerie go because you are off to talk about what's a consumer going to look like in 2020, and ironically, Brad Inman's about to come on, and I think if there's someone in our industry that's helped us see 5 years down the road, or a publication that has continued to push where are we going, it has been Inman News over the last, since I've been reading their blog posts. So that's going to be interesting. You think a lot of things are going to change, a lot of things are going to remain the same.
I mean, change is constant, right? Change is always happening. I don't think anything's going to, I mean, if we're all waiting for the change to stop and it just become normal, it's going to be a long wait. So I think change is exciting. You know me, I'm all about what's happening next, and Brad's the same way, so it's exciting to have him
We'll bring him
here.
up. So without further ado, Brad Inman.
Hey.
How are you? Good to see you.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
Where do you want me?
Yeah, come on, sit down right
Great.
here. We won't put you in the middle, and
problem.
now now it's exciting because you're coming out now. You're going to do a show here. You're going to sit down with some of the.
I am?
That's what I
didn't
heard.
know that. I
That's
thought
what I
it was
heard.
on your show.
No, she didn't come to for me. No,
I get to speak to the master, Dave Liniger. I'm always love to talk to Dave.
And I've had the pleasure actually the last 2 years to sit down with him and interview him live, and there is something that's just there's something charismatic. Now you've sat down with him many times and discussed them. So from a non-Remax point of view, what is it about Mr. Linegar, that has driven this company to where it is? What do you get sense from him when you sit down and talk to
What
him?
I love, he personifies America. He started with nothing and created this incredible international enterprise, and that alone is significant. But he's also a man that's fallen down and gotten back up. And there's an old expression, it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up.
Sure.
And Dave Linegar embodies that. He's also been an innovator. He's also a wonderful guy. I met Dave in a bar in New Orleans way back at an NAR convention, and I was a budding journalist for the LA Times, and he was a budding Arizona, right?
No.
Colorado?
Colorado.
I thought
Colorado.
Arizona was in there somewhere. I always think everything's Arizona. But Colorado, yes, he was starting his franchise,
Yeah.
and we got along instantly. I always had great respect. We butted heads many times, but that's the beauty of, again, America. Disagreement.
So now you've been a journalist or a publisher for a very long time. Why has someone? What was it that real estate has got you to be in there? What is it about the real estate industry that you have built Inman News around?
Well, I covered public policy. It's a word you don't hear about anymore, right? Because there is no policy in Washington. And back in the day when I was in California in Sacramento, it's all about politics and bad politics. And I thought when I was younger that public policy could change the world. So I love covering that. And then I realized those politicians aren't going to change anything. And I got inspired by technology. And I said, innovation, the spirit of entrepreneurship, that's going to change the world, and has, technology. So I've always believed and loved technology. I love to change things. I'm a rebel. Let's change it up. And technology just was fascinating. So Inman came a lot through that. You know, we were talking about technology before anybody.
And
I have
sorry.
a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Brad, I know one of your favorite words is disruption.
Right.
And you're always about what's disrupting. So what is a disruption? Like, first of all, what is your obsession with the word disruption? And secondly, what is a disruption you would love to see in this industry?
Well, I love real estate. I love property. I like going to open houses. I'm one of those people that's always loved real estate. I always say we spend half of our lives working and half at home, and home's a really pretty important part of our life. So I just love real estate. I also think the process of making people homeowners or tenants is full of a lot of legacy, stupid, bad habits and paper and nightmares for the consumer. And so what I want to see disrupted is all that crap in the process so that it's easier for people to become homeowners, because I think homeownership is the greatest thing ever invented in humankind. So I don't come from this, I want real estate agents disrupted, or I want brokers disrupted, or that's not how I think about the world at all. I just want more people to be able to easily become homeowners, and I think agents make that happen every day, and let's empower them with the tools to make it easier for people to do that. That's all.
I asked.
Great question. Why are you obsessed with disruption?
I asked Gary Vee this question one time, and I said, is the future of the real estate agent in jeopardy? And his answer is so perfect to me. He said that the future of the real estate agent's future isn't in jeopardy, but the agent that doesn't adapt to change future is in jeopardy. Yeah. That technology won't kill out the real estate agent, will just kill off those that don't move forward. And so, do you think that's the answer, how technology will affect the real estate agent?
Well, I think Valerie knows an expression I used about disruption in New York recently was, you will be disrupted if you don't adopt disruptive technology, and you will be. Yeah. In fact, the people that didn't advocate and support listings on the internet, they're probably long gone. It's what that did for the industry of a true marketplace online every day, all night, every day around the world. We could see home listings, and that's like we take that for granted. But there's a lot of new disruptive technologies that I hope agents adopt before the portals or before some startup. And why not? On-demand showings, radical. But I want to see the house now. Why can't I? And that sounds radical, just like putting listings on the internet sounded radical. But I guarantee you in 2 years it will happen, and you'll either be part of it or not. So adopt the disruptive technologies or get disrupted.
Yeah. And it's not a popular topic. I mean,
no.
We take a lot of heat for, if I use an Uber, all of a sudden I'm the devil, right? Because, God forbid, I put the taxi companies out of business. But why can't the taxi companies adopt the technology that Uber's using and give me the same experience? They can.
You nailed it, Valerie, and I've been saying recently, the cab companies, just like the real estate industry did years ago, they fought through regulation and everything else to put a stop to innovation, and then they got disrupted. And now what's happening with cab companies in New York, where I live part of the time, they are adopting everything Uber did. The cars are clean. They're not talking on the phone. Oh, my God, they got GPS, and they got an app to get a car. And you know what? The cab companies are better, and I'll take a cab now because they're now competing with the same stuff Uber did. So adopt disruptive technologies or get disrupted.
And I totally agree, because we can look at the Blockbuster model, Netflix. Netflix was started by a disgruntled Blockbuster customer who saw a better way, and I think the better way will always win. The customer's experience will always win out. That's just what they will choose, and so our job then is to continue that customer experience. So
now, one thing I would say, the people in this room, particularly the people in this audience that are here, you know that some of the stuff that's introduced is stupid.
Yeah.
Because you know real estate better than anybody. And I always say half the stuff we put on stage doesn't work. You tell us, because you're very savvy, you're very smart, and you are the filter to beta test this stuff. But beta test it and tell us what's wrong and what's not working, because ultimately if it's not working in the field, it's not going to work because some startup guy thought it up.
So here's my big plug for what Inman does for me as an agent. I've been in this business now 23 years. The fax machine showed up in our office in 1995, and agents lost their minds. And it wasn't that the fax machine was an enormous change. It was that there was no change for such a long period of time that even something small felt disruptive. Yeah. And so now the problem is we're out with agents or with clients all the time, spending time with them. How can we afford the time to look around to see what's coming around the corner? Because if we don't, we'll end up Blockbuster model. So one of the things I love about Inman is that I can just, go on there and read my articles and I say, that's an opportunity. I heard about that again. I heard about it again. So it's one of the things, is that your role in the real estate industry, is to always look around the corner so that as an industry, we're not surprised?
I think part of it, and we also write about it all, and sometimes people get upset. But our view, if you're out in the field and you're a real estate agent and you don't understand something that's actually going on that your customer knows about, that puts you at a disadvantage. So some guy like Solo Pro, this interesting kid starting some fee-for-service business out of Missouri, who knows? There might be an ad on national television, or there might be a pop-up in Home Depot that he has a partnership with, and your customer asks you about it. If you don't know about it, then you're at a disadvantage. We're at an age where you have to be as smart as your clients, and it's really hard today to be as smart as your clients because of the internet. I mean, what's the biggest university in the world? It's YouTube. That's become the biggest university in the world. Let's face it, that's where we're at. It's not University of California, Berkeley, which is the second best university in the world.
Is there any reason why you said that? No bias there at all? If I ever looked up your bio on LinkedIn,
no, I didn't go there, but
okay.
I teach there. And but Boston University is way down the list. But my point is, that's the role of Inman, to keep you as well informed as we can. And we make a lot of mistakes, and if we do, you tell us. And that's our role. Part of that is technology, best practices, what the politicians are doing, what shenanigans are going on. We're your partner. We write only for the industry. No one pays us off. No one has investments in Inman. We don't invest in Zillow. We don't invest in any real estate company. We're truly independent. But we're partners with the industry trying to cover you honestly. That's simple agenda. And boy, we make mistakes, and boy, you tell us quickly when we do.
And one of the things I think there's a lot of value that an Inman conference brings for me, and Valerie and I have been at conferences. We are at RE/MAX conferences all the time, and the other brands at their own. But when you can cross-pollinate a little bit with the ideas and sit around a table where I didn't see it that way because we're so inside baseball. So what have you found? What have you found when you're out at these conferences that makes a conference that's multi-brand different than just a branded conference?
Well, first of all, I always say to our team at Inman, it's about the person in the plastic seat that paid me $800 and traveled to come to New York City or San Francisco. It's not about the big shots in the seats up here. It's not about the sponsors. It's about them. So everything needs to focus on them. And what comes from them is the strength of the Inman community, like the strength of the RE/MAX community. It's diverse, it's interesting, it's tolerant, it's accepting, but more than anything, it mirrors your industry. And the industry is very diverse and very colorful. And we try to capture that. For a while there, we had too many old white boys like me on stage. And we've completely changed that around, completely. And that's our audience. It's younger, it's diverse, it's tolerant, it's interesting, and it mirrors this wonderful industry. This isn't an industry with a few people running it. This is millions of realtors out on the street every day making home sales.
Has disruption in technology forced the age younger in the industry?
There's just a whole new way of looking at things. And Valerie could, she knows so many of these people in our community. It is more tolerant. unforgiving of bullshit, easily will easily adopt technology,
Yeah.
very candid about dismissing what doesn't work, and that community gravitates to Inman, and it's a really vibrant, it's very successful at a young age,
Yep.
inspired by different things than the ethics of my generation.
Yep.
And we got to pass the wand. I said that to Dave on stage. There's a point you pass the wand to the next generation.
Well, and I think we're seeing like the next generation, and we know this, like Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z that's coming, Z, sorry for the Americans, and they're more entrepreneurial. They're more, I want flexibility, that I want to be able to work from home, I want to be able to do this, and I want to work with people, and I don't want to be tied down to a boss. This is in a very attractive industry for those people, and it should be. This is an industry where the harder you work, the more money you make, hands down. And so I think it's adapting to a younger crowd, and technology is making that easier for them because they're more tech savvy and they're more able to just jump right in there and roll their sleeves up. So I think we are going to see a lot more younger people jumping into the industry, and I think that's a good thing. But I also think that in itself is disruptive because they're going to come in with the idea of there is no such thing as this is how we've always done it. They're going to come in with I can do it however I want because it works, right? And
the barriers to entry are even lower now.
Yeah.
Which is good.
But
Valerie, what you just said, in the old days, in this crowd, we would talk about being a real estate professional. That's not something you hear so much from the younger generation. You actually hear them say, I got into real estate because I want to be an entrepreneur. And that's a whole different psychology than I think
it's a
my
one-person
generation.
business,
Yeah,
right?
it
As
is.
opposed to
You wake
yeah.
up in the morning without a
Yeah.
job, just like any entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you said, Inman tries to bring you everything. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right.
Yeah.
If you had to put your gut money on something that's around the corner that you think is going to be disruptive to our industry or opportunistic, because I think disruption comes with opportunity for those that embrace it, what do you think is one of those things that we will see in our industry in the next?
I'm not pandering here. And Dave Liniger paid me nothing to be here. And we are not a sponsor, and neither are being sponsored. But we wrote the title of our live stream, which is going to happen in a little while. And the question is, Remax, the comeback kid. I'll bet on Dave Liniger. I think Dave's going to come up with stuff that's pretty cool. And I can't wait to see it. I don't know what it is, and I could be wrong. I'm wrong half the time, but I'll bet on that. Other technologies, on-demand showings, get with it, instant offers, all this stuff's going to happen.
Brad, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Your live stream's at 3:30?
It
3
is,
o'clock,
yeah.
3:30 right here. So come and check that out with Brad. So thank you so much.
Good to see you, Valerie.
Me too. Thanks for coming.
See you, gang.
Up next is, he's got a mic on already, the president of Remax LLC, Geoff Lewis.
Woohoo!
Hello, how are you, sir?
Hey, Geoff. How are you?
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Now you were there this morning at the session, and you were backstage, and we were hearing Patrick talk, and he was telling a story where he sat down with the CEO of a startup company, and that CEO was grumpy and wasn't very happy, and one of the people said, "Do you even really want to be CEO?" So your role on Remax as president, do you love being the president of Remax LLC?
I do. I love this company because we've got such a great culture and such a history of success and such great people, especially coming here to convention and meeting people. I just came from our special awards winter luncheon and see the accomplishments that those people have made and how proud they are. And people from Portugal, we have close to 3,000 agents in Portugal, and they're there with their own cheering section and waving their flags and competing against Argentina. I felt like I could really cause some problems if I rolled a soccer ball out in the middle of the floor there and get them going.
So on that note, I want to ask you what Brad just said about betting on Dave Liniger as a comeback kid, and comeback would probably indicate the word change is involved. And if there's one thing our industry is seeing more and more, and will continue to see more, is change. And I think I'm a firm believer that I love change because change offers an opportunity to do something. If you were to say this is change or forecast change when it comes to Remax, where do you think, what would the definition of change within the Remax brand mean to you?
It would mean changing the things that are going to improve us as a company, going to improve our brokers and agents. I think what's the most difficult challenge is determining what should change and what should stay the same. What's the core that really isn't going to change, and then what are the tools around that can help you be more efficient. Maintaining your relevancy as an agent, being relevant to the transaction, things like the relationship skills, the local knowledge, the professional expertise to guide through the transaction. I think that's at the core. What's changing are the tools around that allow you to be more efficient, to give the consumer more information, to give them more transparency into the transaction, to allow them to see that even happen more quickly. If you look at something like Rocket Mortgage, that Quicken just rolled out, where that product can dramatically reduce the amount of time that it takes to get a loan, and other things that we can do to streamline the transaction, give the consumer more transparency. We've all bought and sold homes, and the home seller, the home buyer, for that 45 days or however long it takes, they're always wanting to know what's happening. We can give them more transparency into that, shorten that. That would be an important way to change.
So I have a question for you. What is your why? What gets you up every morning? And Mel spoke this morning about you know what you have to do, but you have to have that feeling. So for a lot of the people who see you in the hallways here and haven't gotten to know you or haven't had a chance to sit down and have lunch with you, what would you want them to know your why is, and that makes you not hit that snooze button every morning, other than motorcycles?
Yeah, Bruce wanted to say about motorcycles.
Yeah, we'll talk to Bruce about that. My why is what can we do differently at RE/MAX? How can we take this core of what we built? How can we develop better vision for the future, more accountability for what we're doing, bringing in a different perspective, coming in almost a year now as president, but having a new perspective coming in from a different part of the company, having worked in other industries. How can we push forward? How can we adopt best practices? How can we be more competitive?
Nice.
Now, Mr. Lindiger on the stage yesterday was talking about some of the things that he did or the brand did during the tough times, especially in the States. Now, I'm an agent from Canada. We didn't have the issues that you had, and he talked about going to the banks and getting more of the foreclosure business. And then he talked about, and now I'd like to see us get better at the technology and become the leader with technology. And he sort of pushed that as that's the next thing that he needs to tackle, or the brand needs to tackle, to make us world class at. What part of the technology revolution that we're living in would you be most excited to see RE/MAX take the lead within the industry?
Well, we're not going to take the lead within the industry in terms of building the technology ourselves. We're going to do it by partnering with the right technology partners. But what we'd really like, I think our vision would be to have kind of a plug-and-play technology that we can give our brokers and agents, that gives them a foundation but allows them to go out and choose the best-in-class vendors, best-in-class CRM, best-in-class transaction management, but have a platform like through our Lead Street that they can plug those things into that they want to use. What we found when we go out and we choose something on their behalf, we'll get 40% adoption of that product, and we'll get other agents who want to choose, who aren't interested in it or want to choose something different. Sure. So rather than trying to find a one-size-fits-all, to have this sort of modular approach, sure. But you got to have the base that you can plug it into.
So you're talking integration,
right?
Right. So rather than mandatory use of a certain product, easier integration with the products that you already use and the stuff that we offer.
Right.
Which is smart.
Right. So I mean, if you think about it, for example, an iPhone is a product that you use, but everything you use on it, is an app, various apps. And what's really important, I think, is for us to get on the home screen. What do you need? That's what's most relevant, right? Everybody's got, lots of bright, shiny objects that they came across along the way. But, where do you live? You live on your home screen, and you really live in your dock, right? The ones that you have there that are on every screen. So, the iPhone is the tool that allows you to bring in the applications that you want to use that make you more efficient. That's kind of the way I see it.
Which app do you use the most?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, the ones I use the most are, text and phone and calendar.
But other than that?
And contacts. Other than that, I use my Facebook, and I use my financial apps and the photos.
Oh.
You know?
I wasn't texting. I was going to. I knew I wrote
Okay.
it. You looked down. I was like, well, I've got the president of Remax here, and I'm just going to fire off a thing to my wife, and then I'll get back to this interview.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I can ask Google for you. You ask me the question on Google, and I'll Google the answer for you.
If you were a consumer, put your consumer pants on. That's something Valerie says. Field pants, consumer pants. What could be a duplicatable experience? Because we talked before you got on here about opportunities to create experiences that are one-offs. We talked about that they had to get to the airport, and Enterprise took them to the airport. That was capitalizing on a one-off opportunity. What would be a duplicatable experience that an agent would provide you if you were a consumer that would turn you into that advocate, into that long-term referral business,
Yep.
An advocate of yours? What does that look like? What now in 2016 would that experience be?
Well, I think it's the same as it's been for many years. I tell you, the most recent experience I had buying the home that I'm currently in, I used a great Remax agent, Brooks Benham, and we had found, we put our house in the market and it sold, and we had 6 weeks to close, so we had to find something else. We found a property that we liked, and we made it. We thought it was overpriced. This was back in 2010, and we made an offer on that property, and it was rejected. And we kept looking and couldn't find anything else. We came back and said, let's go back and make another offer on that property. So we did. We came back in a little bit higher. And this time the seller countered at a much higher price. The seller was thinking, well, I paid more than that for my house in 2005. And you all know back then, you're saying, well, that's not relevant, right? What the property was 2005. He rejected it. We weren't finding anything else. We were starting to get in a panic mode. We talked about, well, let's go back and make a little higher offer on that property. And Brooks said to us, if you try to make another offer on that property, I will tackle you. There's sort of the agent, just, hey, if they can get the deal, right? They want to get the deal. You want to offer a higher price and get the property. It makes my life easy. But he was no. That was not right for you. That property is overpriced. I am not going to, I will stand between you and that property and not let you do that.
It's almost that naked advice that we said, that all terms tell you the truth, right?
And so, that just totally endeared me to him, that this guy was really, really looking out for my interest. And then he came back a week later and said, hey, I found this property that's bank owned. And we looked at it, we said, yeah, but that's way out of our price range. And he said, no, we can get a deal on this. And he just worked his butt off and negotiated us a fabulous deal on a foreclosure property that we ended up buying. So that kind of, local market knowledge, that customer service, I'm putting your interests above everything else. That's not going to be duplicated by technology, right? That's where you go.
Yep.
That man, that woman, that agent, boy, I will recommend them to everyone.
And in that story, it would have been easier for him to go back on that first property. It'd be less work. And he said, no, I'm going to put in more work, and I'm going to create a billboard that now you're sitting here telling us the story.
And the property we ended up buying, because it was a foreclosure property, was a tremendous amount of work that he put into it. But we were extremely, extremely happy with the result.
Awesome.
So I had an opportunity back in October to come down to Denver, walk through headquarters. It's an overwhelming experience when you were an entrepreneur doing real estate in a smaller town, and it's this weird thing with inside Remax that I hadn't experienced before I got here. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm on an amazing team with 2 other agents, and we are in our own little company, and we all kind of feel this way. And then you step into the corporate world that we have a very tight relationship with, and there's all these people with different roles and different titles. What is it that through that relationship that the agent can get more out from the corporate world that is Remax, and vice versa? What are the opportunities for us as individual agents in our small towns to pull on the value of having a large corporation behind us? And what can a large corporation like Remax do to sort of pull in some of the entrepreneurial spirit that's in every single one of these amazing agents with inside Remax?
That's a great question. One of the things we can do is R4, right? Have a convention like this. So agents, whether they're in a small market or big market, can come here. They can network. They can learn. They can share. We do that on a region level by having broker and agent events. We have a regional development staff, a regional vice president of each region and franchise development consultants who are constantly out visiting the offices, organizing these events. presenting to them the training and tools that we have. One of the biggest frustrations that we run into at headquarters is going out to our offices, talking to brokers and agents. Many of them don't realize half of the resources that we have available, whether they're marketing resources, whether they're training resources. So that's one of the things that our staff does, is try to make them aware of that, and then at the same time, find out what they're doing. I really enjoy talking to folks when I'm here, find out what they're doing, because, you know, as Dave Linegar said for years and years, many of the best ideas, you know, come from the field. We have 100,000 entrepreneurs. As I said yesterday, wake up every morning, you know, I'm going hunting today, right? If I want to eat, I gotta kill something. And so that creativity, that entrepreneurial spirit, when you got the best, the top producers, always coming up with great ideas. One of the biggest challenges we have is just trying to keep track of all of those and find out which ones we can share with the network. But it's forums like this that give opportunity for two-way sharing, you to us, us to you, and then you to yourselves.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I mean, we could do a training session at a regional level and somebody will say, I've been with RE/MAX 20 years, I didn't know any of this existed. And that is the big frustration point, because you're constantly saying, look at what we do. So I think, it's a great piece of advice, is just come and learn about what's available, ask questions.
You heard Amy Somerville yesterday go through RU, which we've had for some time, but a new interface that makes it a lot cleaner, a lot easier to find things, a lot more user-friendly. So trying to improve the tools that we have and the way we present them to make them more accessible, so people will use them more and benefit from them more. Because that really is an advantage that we have that a lot of agents can't get other places.
So last question for you, and then we'll let you get back to all the other things you have to do. Looking way down the road, having a company that has such a legacy brand like a RE/MAX, what do you hope your legacy, your thumbprint would be on RE/MAX down the road? What would you like to see your legacy be?
To continue our industry leadership. I mean, I would hate to see us lose that, or feel that in any way was part of a leadership team that let that slip away. So constantly having a vision of the future, constantly having innovation and technology, putting the resources behind it to achieve that, continuing to always attract the best agents so that we will continue to be known as the home of the top producers.
We certainly have that. Thank you so much, Geoff. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate that.
Thrilled to have you. Thank you very much.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, I agree. We do have the best agents. We have an amazing company, and I'm always shocked about how much it is a family. So that's it. I'm going to, once again, say to Dave back at home in New Jersey, Dave, I don't know which camera's on. Are you controlling the camera?
All of them.
This one. Dave,
The middle.
we miss you. Your middle one? I didn't see a camera.
That
Middle
one.
one. Dave, we miss you. You're an amazing man. 102 episodes, and we miss you, and we'll be back on the air together here in a couple of weeks. So for everyone here live at R4 that have come in here and supported us, a lot of you guys watch every week. I appreciate that very, very much. For everyone watching at home on your computer, thank you guys for coming and being so supportive of this crazy adventure that Dave and I started 3 years ago, that has us sitting down with Valerie Garcia, some amazing agents, Brad Inman, Geoff Lewis. I didn't foresee this coming, so that's fantastic. And thanks, Jesse Peters. And as Melanie Gallia of RE/MAX Fort McMurray wants us to end every show, tell 5 other agents about Mobile Agent TV. We grow every week. It allows us to reach out to amazing people like we had on the show today.
And if you're tuning in for the first time, and this is the first time you've ever heard of Mobile Agent TV, and you're thinking, what is this crazy thing that Sky keeps talking about? Michael started doing this 3 years ago at R4 with Dave, and 102 episodes later, that means there's 102 hours of video online that you can go and watch. That's amazing RE/MAX people sharing wonderful knowledge for free, and they continue to do it. So we thank you for being a big part of this brand.
Thank you. So that's it. Enjoy R4. If you're not here, I'm glad that we could bring you a little R4. Oh, I'm going to do a shameless plug. If you're at home and you're not here at 4 o'clock today, you can jump on Periscope and follow at Mobile Agent TV, and you can look in at Jesse and I's top 10 tips to explode your real estate business. I spelt it wrong on every promo that I put out there. I can't spell the word explode.
Nope.
So go ahead and watch that. Thank you guys all for watching. We'll bring you new episodes in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.